Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine.
So how does it feel to be 60?
It feels exciting. It feels like so one can get to this age so
Without the
so
wahala that
quickly.
you need.
Yes, and so you are just like taking stock. Where you are happy when people say, or rather, I'm happy when people say, "Oh, you don't look 60," and so on. But well, you may not look 60, and
Your body is telling you. I like that.
I don't have a backrest where I am now. I don't have feeling so.
I like that.
So
I like that.
you do as much exercise as you can, and of course, I guess it's an age where you of necessity try to take stock. I know that the journey ahead. Although I've had prayers, you celebrate your 70, your 80, your 90. But even if you live up to that, it can't be like this. So what is an age of recollection, actually? And I'm glad that I've been able to do this, my student unionism memoir, on this occasion. Because you never know tomorrow. And I learned from, I remembered Fela was to write his memoir at the age of 60, because they kept questioning the claims if Fela write a memoir. They said, when I'm 60, I will write my memoir. And Fela died at 59. If Gadifa and me, to whom I was very close, and also wanted to do this memoir, his plan was, after 70, he will retire. He had laid out all the plans to come out with a blockbuster of a memoir. But as it's why it didn't happen because of the challenges of ill health. So one should just be grateful that one is alive to do the little one can do. So it feels great, and but at the same time, you know that the only way I console myself, I think I wrote somewhere that it was Bafemi Awolowo who said 60. No, sorry, not 60. He said, I think when he was doing his 50th birthday, and then he said 50 is the youth of, he said 40 is the youth of old age, something like that. So when he says 60, and I say 60, what is 60 then? Beginning of old age.
Okay, the youthful beginning. Okay, what was the first thing you did when you woke up on your 60th?
What was the first thing I did? Okay, woke up. First, I didn't go to bed early because my wife, the children had to pop some champagne, pray, we sang, and whatever. So, but then I went to bed, and when I woke up, the first thing I was like, 60. This man, Lanre, you are 60. Just like that. So it looked like the first thing I did was to just be asking myself and say, so this 60, has come. The age you used to think that was
it's finally here.
Finally here. Okay. And then I got a big surprise. So I just felt, okay, my wife had been asking me, what would you do? And I said, well, I'm working on my book, and it's when I'm launching it, I will do no plan or nothing. But that was a big surprise. He had planned so many things. He had executed a perfect coup with my daughters. The younger one in the university had arrived at my house. I didn't know until that midnight when she's already emerged and was singing. I said, when she entered this house, I didn't know how the whole plan is. Had a service, my staff at International Press Center, and they really made it, even though I had not wanted to do anything that day, because about 2 weeks earlier, I buried my best friend, very close comrade, confidant, Shegun Shongo. So I felt indifference to him. But it was also difficult to deny the family the joy of the occasion. So that was why we had that small celebration.
Now, who was the first person that wished you a happy birthday on your 60th birthday? Okay. Of all the what's your wife's name?
Ogunshola Arogundade. Ogunshola Lanre Arogundade.
Okay, now of all the birthday messages that came your way or that you got, which is the most memorable? Which one still sticks in your memory? Of everything that people said, including your family, including your friends, even frenemies who were there on that day, Of all the things that people said, which one sticks in your memory? One.
Which one? I really don't know. I think all the messages were wonderful. That of my wife was excellent. That of my first daughter, Molola, was touching. That of the second daughter, Eniola, was really, really wonderful. The ones that came from my, siblings, my sisters and my brothers, and then, the elderly ones were really, really, touching. The one that came from my immediate my staff at the International Press Center, because some people around you, they know you more than you know yourself. And maybe I'll go back to those messages and pick one out. But I also recollect that the good thing that this one came from my wife's best friend, Bessie.
Okay.
So at that service, the cool party that they organized for me, and so when she was to speak, and she said, well, he calls me, calls me like a brother or like mommy, something like that. And she said, look, why I really like my friend's husband is because of the way he smiles. Hey, bro, my best friend, Mrs. Ebugo, and that was what she said. So,
okay.
And I said, okay, maybe I did not find any cure then for this my laughter. Let me just keep smiling.
Now, what would you say has been the greatest lesson that life has taught you?
The greatest lesson that life has taught me is that time truly does not wait for anyone. Do not procrastinate. Fight procrastination as much as possible. Do things in time so that you don't put yourselves under pressure. I think the pressure, I can just imagine the pressure I went through, writing this memoir, my social journalism memoir. And at a stage I wished I'd completed it 5 years ago, and I'm just turning it around and so on. But I think that's the greatest lesson that life has taught me, that time waits for no one. And whatever you want to do it today. 2022 has been quite sobering for me, I must say. Losing very close friends, losing two very close medical doctors. So you see things happening around you, and it's just about whatever you are doing and you derive joy from doing and it's beneficial to the society, keep doing it, because life truly is very, very transient. Every second, every hour, every day is such a rare privilege. That is also another lesson that life has really, really taught me.
Okay. Now, have you got any regrets?
I would say yes, to some extent, really. I felt that I should, if I'd been mentored otherwise, perhaps what I should have been or what I should have studied in university would have been dramatic arts. And because, in my days at secondary school, I was always good. If I write from my primary school days, always good, in drama. I can't count the number of my daddy's big awadas that took to school. By the time I was in the final year in the secondary school, I was playing lead role in a number of plays. But it didn't occur to me, I never told me that I didn't even know that you could go to university to read, drama. Perhaps could have been an area where I could have, excelled. And then the fact that, leaving that aside, what I wanted to study in the university was economics. I so much loved economics. I was very good in economics. It was one of the subjects I was taking in A-levels. And then with 3 marks, I missed, economics, cut-off points. Then, I think cut-off point of economics was 251 or 253. I scored 249. The idea then was that in the second year, I could change to economics. By the time I was going to do that, again, there were issues between the head of the Department of Economics who was recommending me and the dean of the faculty. So my name I couldn't make it. Not knowing that as at that time, I had just started accounting in Ife, and they were recruiting students. The first set didn't come through JAM. So they just basically went around the classrooms, especially in the social sciences, to announce that if you are interested, you come over. Perhaps that's another thing. But even at that, I ended up enjoying, psychology. And I don't know whether if I'd done something else, I would have been able to have, this flair this opportunity to express myself. Yes, some regrets in that direction, but not an overwhelming one that I would say, oh, I'm happy to be who I am. That's just the truth. And I try to put those regrets behind me.
So what's next for Lanre Arogundade?
What next? Have to if one were in the civil service, it's the retirement age. So the reality to it is that you can't just continue, and I'm looking at some options. Obviously, I still will do some more writing, perhaps in a more relaxed atmosphere. I still have to do a complete memoir of my childhood, part of which I mentioned yesterday. In fact, the public knowledge that my mother was a saplet babe has, reignited that issue. Professor Gigi Dara called me this morning and said that aspect, because there's also a Sapele story. Because the story of Sapele is also the story of Nigeria's tragedy. A once bubbling, city that had everything. Football club, is the Sapele of the 1950s, 1960s. It was just like the Liverpool, of Europe, a port city, an industrial city, and so on. That's where my mom grew up. That's where the mother died. My uncles and so on. I was there. I have a lot of interesting, childhood stories to tell. I went through so many universities of religion. I was once an Afa Lanre because my dad was liberal enough to allow me to dash to the mosque to pray because my step-grandmother was a Muslim. Then our secondary school, like I said in this book, my first university was my first secondary school. You look at what we call universities today, you can't compare. So a lot of stories around that is not strictly unionism, activism, breaking coconuts with head and so on. Those what it meant to be a child growing up in the village. A little bit of it mentioned here, but I felt I probably still have to do a full childhood. Exactly.
Okay.
Some lovely memories. Seeing railway for the first time in Osogbo and running as if you were being pursued by.
Just like Ake by showing the days of.
Exactly. So I still have that. Then I think I still need to do something on journalism. I've done a book of media, which is strictly professional book, but I've not done a book on activism in journalism. Okay. Hopefully, going forward, I will just be more of an author, and who knows, would just move on to radio, television, do something more exciting.
In your 60 years of existence, which individual, just one person, has affected your life the most, and why?
One person that has affected my life and why?
The most, yes.
The most. Why? That person, I hope that person is listening to this interview, because when I told her what she did in our secondary school days, she couldn't even remember. I told you I like drama, playing, and every other thing. So around the time we were in Form 4 or so, she walked up to me and said, look, in those days, the best in the class would be those first, second, third. And then you have first to third. And he said, look, Lanre, but for the fact that you are too playful, you are supposed to always be among the first to third, in our class. Her name is Moyo. She's now Mrs. Moyo Agbola. And telling me that made me to go and sit down and also say, look, it's true. I can be better, focused. And it changed a lot of things. So that by the time we were doing the final year promotion from 4 to 5, I was the best in history. I won a prize in history subject, and changed a lot. The second person, because that I will also not forget, is now a professor at the University of Ife. I mean, at Obafemi Awolowo University, was for Akomolafe Rufus. I joined a small gang. Anytime the maths teacher was coming, we would just carry our books and leave the class for the maths teacher to teach those interested in maths. And then when WAEC beckoned, and I was trying to study for, I did that next to nothing. So I wrote to this classmate of mine, very a perfect gentleman. So we call him the encyclopedia of our set because he remembers almost everything that happened. And I told him,
what's the person's name?
Akomolafe Rufus. He's a professor. He's now a professor of physiology at Obafemi Awolowo University. So I told him I was in soup. He said, "What soup?" I said, "I've been running away from mathematics classes. But WAEC is coming. I've been social sciences subjects. I will need. What can you do?" He said, "It's not difficult." And he became, my tutor. Gave me all those tricks, those principles, how you can solve all those problems. And I had that confidence. So at my first sitting, I had a pass in mathematics. It could have been worse. If it would have been F9, I had, P7. But at the second sitting, because of that foundation that he laid, what it did to me, so I just realized that what I didn't have before my first work was the time. Because this was like just 2 weeks. So the second time around, I did better. I had, C5. Those two people, really, I will never forget that they did said some things that changed something in me.
Thank you very, very much for your time, for your thoughts, for your everything.